monitor the radio frequently and go to bring a truckload of Jews and hide them until they could be evacuated. She mentioned that there was a hidden entrance and exit to the tunnels that brought her to her backyard, and this is how she escaped detention from the Jews. Anyone out of the curfew would be shot, and the German enforced it methodically. So when the Germans were there, if there was a curfew and you were out, they'd simply shoot you.
No, well, they were after the Jews.
Yeah, but if anyone else was out of curfew,
well, we were the enemy. We were Americans. We were the enemy. And I finally got the super foot settled down. Look.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Sound like that. Look.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Renee went on to say how bitter and revengeful she became at the convent of her death of her two brothers. The Mother Superior would have her in the chamber nightly in an attempt.
Yeah, she asked me to talk to her Mother Superior. She said, I want to talk to you, John. I said, oh, Jesus, what she wants.
But to no avail. When she came back to the empty house, the feelings of despair and suffering were not alleviated, but only became worse. It was only when she discovered several French men aiding an elderly Jewish couple that she had learned of the resistance. She quickly embraced their cause and became part of them. It was like she went from vindicated and a redemption from her pain and remorse. But now Renee was visibly shaken. Do you think I'm terrible? She whispered. I said nothing, but continued. We've been talking for several hours, and it was dark outside, and the only light in the room was from the dying embers in the fireplace. I asked her if she wanted to go out and get something to eat, and she jumped up and stated that she had prepared something that was off in the kitchen. I followed her in the kitchen and sat at the table, watching her scurry up.
She's cooking stuff up.
Scurry up. Yeah, let's see. I followed her in the kitchen and watched her scurry about. Suddenly it brought me back to memories of watching Annie doing the very same thing in our kitchen in Owensboro. I felt a pang of culpability, but the sight of Renee darting about soon extinguished the flame. She had prepared a sumptuous meal, roast pork, baked potatoes, and several vegetables, and for dessert we had a handmade chocolate cake. As I asked her how she obtained all the food, she smiled and stated that she was still in the resistance. As we ate, she spoke about her parents and how her mother had been taught her to cook. She insisted, however, that most of her culinary skill was derived from her stay at the monastery. It was there that she learned most of the English and spoke, but insisted that she learned more interest these past several weeks than ever before. After several glasses of wine brought upon me a warm, glowing sensation, she started to speak French, which only made me. Suddenly she drew away, spoke something in French, and instantly corrected herself. Enough, I'm becoming overwhelmed, she whispered, seating herself in one of the chairs around the table. She smiled, taking my hand. You are warm also, she murmured. I sat down, put my head on her lap. I looked up, and there were tears in her eyes. I saw that I cared for her very much. I did not know what she was exclaimed, and putting her arms around her waist, pleasure ahead. I was confused what happened. I held Renee as she trembled. She looked inside. I'm sorry for my acting childish. She then put her hand on my shoulder and took my hand. She blew her nose with my handkerchief and then asked in a more serious tone, "What problem?" I had for the moment and then released briefly. I accepted increased responsibility at home to determine of self-interest. Renee then said something revealing of all time. "You will go back, you will not want to go, and you will damage yourself the rest of your life, but you're defenseless against such a great power." I was perturbed by her revelation, even though she was stating the truth. Deep down, I knew it was factual, but up to that point, did not want to admit it. Renee got up, went in the kitchen, and I stayed on the couch, toiling over my newly found insight. I did not feel better for knowing my fate, but would have given anything to be able to cling to my own inclination, submerge my inner thoughts. Then the thought of returning home was repulsive to me. The thought of returning home was returned a tray of tea and tarts, and as she set the tray down, handed me a cup. She sat next to me. As our eyes opened, she was an inseparable permanent bond between us. I looked at her and gazed in the fireplace of the dying embers. Her demeanor was peaceful, and she resigned to herself to her fate. "Don't you realize it's too late for us? We have set our course, and now we must follow it. We have no other choice," Renee muttered. Suddenly, everything was swirling before me. My father's death, the arguments, the struggles we had at home, my brothers, apathy for my mother, dependency on me, Annie, Jean, Fink, Lape, and all the squad members who were killed. It came together in one huge flotsam, a floating wreckage of my life. The next thing I remembered, Renee was talking to me, but I did not realize what she was saying. After a while, Renee turned to me and said it was getting late, and I knew she did not want me to leave, and I did not want to go. I lingered until the very last moment. "Will I see you tomorrow?" I asked. "Oh yes," she declared. We still have much to talk about before you leave." "Yes, sister," I rejoined, and she left on a small laugh, holding me around the waist and saying goodbye. She whispered, "Good night until tomorrow." I rode the metro back to the hospital. I was totally distraught and angry at myself on how I handled the entire episode badly. I did the same thing with Annie and Jean and made all kinds of excuses for my ineptness. I was thoroughly disgusted. I thought of Renee, of what lay ahead of her, how she would never know the love of her children or comfort of someone who loved her dearly. She would be living among strangers her whole life and not know the intimacy of man and woman. That is, at the end of her life, she'd be no more than to extol her virtues or even remember. She would be gone and forgotten forever. No one would bring her up good works or even speak of her. There would be no children, no tradition, no namesake. All of her good works should be to no avail and satisfy no living person except ideal and deep-rooted belief. It was not for what it was in life would be judged fair or unfair. You fulfilled its objectives and perceived them, nothing less or more, nothing more. Life was an exclusive quest made up of loose ends, moral ambiguities, and shades of gray. The next morning I checked the bulletin board, and there was anyone shipping out. There was a short notice stating there'd be 2 final shipments. One would comfort most of the patients within 2 to 3 weeks stay here. They would certainly include me, and I could already feel the tenseness in my stomach as I read the notice.